Just because someone is a student doesn't mean that they live in a bubble insulated from all the pressures of everyday life. This is even more true at a place like GSU, where so many of our students are also working full or part-time jobs, going back to school after a break, or many other types of situations. But regardless, all of our students, by virtue of living in the Atlanta region, are sure to be experiencing significantly increased costs of living, especially the closer into campus and downtown one might be. Because of this, students might be required to take out extra loans, take on extra jobs, or even consider moving further outside the city in order to be able to afford rent, but at the same time making their commute to campus more onerous. So even though we wouldn't necessarily think of housing as being so fundamentally connected to one's performance while in school, the knock-on effects of our housing market can have really significant impacts on the everyday lives of our students.
Many of our students live or have lived in neighborhoods near Beltline and have felt the effects of neighborhood change in the past few years. The rent hike might have forced some students out of their previous apartments or neighborhoods, or added additional financial strain during their studies. During the pandemic, some of our students might also have experienced housing insecurity or eviction. Housing issues affect everyone in modern societies, especially those with limited income, such as college students.
So these issues affect our students in a myriad of ways around transportation, obviously housing itself, food, work, these sorts of issues. So one is our ability of our students to live near campus or live in Atlanta. And we already see this issue that we have students that are commuting from long distances, in the suburbs and even exurbs within Atlanta coming to campus. That creates questions of their own ability to maintain their housing, to maintain their work schedules while they are also taking classes and getting their degrees. It becomes a transportation issue. Atlanta doesn't exactly have the most robust public transportation system, so you're relying on public transportation, basically a car, and cars become incredibly important. And if the car breaks down, you have the repairs, you have an inability to go places, and again, these affects these dynamics. How you're getting your food. If you're traveling long distances, you're probably doing things like stopping for fast food. You're not really necessarily having the time to go to grocery stores, build nutritious full meals, these sorts of things. You're not getting exercise by walking in, a classic urban core between classes, between your home, these sorts of things. You're spending more time in cars. All these things impact our students. They impact the amount of time they have to actually devote towards learning, the amount of other external sociological pressures that they are under, both from work and life balances. And all of these things impact our ability to create an educational system where you are given the opportunity to become the best you can, because you have all these external pressures that sometimes aren't faced at a lot of other universities. It is both the sort of, it's the great thing of being an urban university, which is what Georgia State is, but it's also somewhat of a curse because we are forced to address these problems in ways that classical land-grant universities would not have to deal with.
Many of our students are unhoused or identify as homeless. The affordability of housing in Atlanta has affected them in multiple ways.
So look, the historically specific social form of capitalist society is realized in the interdependent social spheres of the economy, the state, and the household, which compel individuals to reproduce capitalist society. None of us are immune from this. More narrowly, as anyone that's been paying a little bit of attention, the city of Atlanta has an affordable housing crisis. The rent is too damn high. More than 75% of low-income renters in the city spend more than 30% of their income on rent, and a large portion pay more than half their incomes on rent. Atlanta ranks 5th out of 70 large U.S. cities in the rate of eviction notice per rental home. The median rent for a one-bedroom unit is hovering over $1,600 per month, even upwards of $2,000. In some neighborhoods like the West End and Reynoldstown, median rents have increased by more than 60% in the last decade. Over the course of Keisha Lance Bottom's tenure in office, the citywide median rent increased by about 12%. And while it shows some signs of slowing down, it's still topping off very, very high. Meanwhile, home values in many traditionally lower income neighborhoods have skyrocketed, driven more than a little bit by investors and speculation, especially near the Beltline. Our students live, go to school, and work in the Atlanta metro area, and often have to make tough choices because of the way in which those three things interface. Housing affordability problems, then, have a direct impacts on our school, both in terms of turnover and performance, as well as our health and employment. Stable, affordable housing is the critical platform on which healthy families and communities depend.